Shii and Huang competed in the 5th season of Thailand, where she finished in 10th place, and the 8th season of All Stars, where she finished in 6th place. Initially being on the outs in her first season, she was well known for believing a fake merge was real and voted out just before the jury on Thailand, before returning to All Stars and significantly improving on her first effort, finishing in 6th and landing a spot on the jury second time round. I spoke to Shii about which contestant she formed an alliance with in Thailand that was never filmed, Colby's obsession with his nether regions during the All Stars, as well as what prevented her from coming back for a third time on Heroes vs Villains. Shii, big pleasure to have you here on Survivor Oz.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
It's a thrill, because I'll say that you are the 6th person from Thailand to be on the show and the 7th person from All Stars, and 2 seasons of mine, Shii, that are actually 2 of my favourites. And I know a lot of fans asked me to get in contact with you, and here we are today. So it's a big honour.
Wow, that's awesome. It's been a long time since I've been on Survivor, so that's amazing.
Yeah, 8 years. And are you even aware that you have a pretty strong fan base out there, Shii?
You know, I'm not. I don't really keep a track of my own quote unquote celebrity, but that's really nice to hear. That's awesome.
Because
I'm so happy.
every time we've had someone from Thailand on, without doubt, we get so many questions about you and your time with certain other contestants on the show. It's like, how was your experience with Shii? What did you think of Shii? And now that we've got you on the show, the amount of questions we've gotten for you today, it's incredible.
Well, I'm terrified of their answers.
Well, I have a massive list. No, I'm just kidding.
But yeah, no, Thailand was really interesting. It was a very interesting season. I mean, I don't watch that much. I actually have not seen too much of the show before, which probably helped. Maybe didn't help. It actually didn't help. I probably should have studied the show more before I actually went on it. Mm-hmm. But I know it was a very interesting season for the history of the show.
Yeah,
and that it was, I think it was Jeff Probst's least favorite season.
Yeah, well, he said that in his, the rankings he did just before Heroes vs Villains. He put Thailand as his worst. And it's not the only criticism the season gets, which I'm very surprised, because, as I said, it's one of my favourite seasons. And I have to say that it also has my favourite winner in the history of Survivor in Brian. So I personally don't see why it's so disliked, so to say, Shii.
And Brian was a very good player, actually. He was very good, very smooth. He had sort of a slick Bengali-like way about him. He never really, everyone thought they were in alliance with him, and seemed pretty nice. And he was good. I really enjoyed watching him on the show too.
Yeah, and I know as well that we always get questions from Thailand contestants about you, but we also get questions every single damn time too, asking about Brian, because there's a man that's gone into oblivion. I think he's disappeared off the face of the earth, Shii, and you wouldn't happen to know what's happened to him, do you?
I don't. The last thing I heard was I think he got a divorce from his wife. That was the last thing I know about Brian. I don't really, after our season, I saw him maybe once or twice at some public events, and then that was pretty much it. So it's a mystery. I wonder if he went back to the films.
Well, this is what we're trying to find out. Maybe there's some porn aficionados out there who can maybe email us in, Shii, and I'm not sure.
Yeah, that could be true. Yeah.
He certainly, because I know that's sort of, we always seem to find that besides a few appearances here and there, that no one seems to know. So I think if we hunt him down, we'll definitely have a lot of questions for him. But I tell you one thing with your season, as we're saying about it, often getting a negative light on it, particularly, say, if Jeff Probst comes out and says that. Is that disappointing because, this season has so much more to it than Brian, things like Gandia and Ted incident and all this sort of stuff. There's so much more to Thailand that I feel doesn't get talked about, if that makes sense.
Well, Thailand was an interesting season in that it was the first time when teams were formed by the contestants.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that the reason why it's not more highly ranked in Jeff's mind is probably because they didn't have as much control over the mix of the teams, A, and B, because what ended up happening was that there was a lot of lethargy in the teams. Because they were chosen by the contestants, the drama wasn't, I don't think the drama was as high as it could have been within the teams itself, and maybe that's what it was. But, as a season, I think that it was a pretty good season. There were a lot of mini dramas that didn't get shown on TV. So, and I'm not sure if it's because the cameras didn't capture them or if they just chose not to air it. But it was also the first season where the contestants had a chance to really watch the previous seasons. I didn't, my mistake. But other characters or other players had actually studied the previous seasons, so they had some working knowledge of the show, and maybe that's what made the show quote unquote not as exciting or not as dramatic as Jeff would have liked. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, well, I'll get to the fact that you brought up about certain things not being shown on camera very soon, and obviously questions in terms of more people, I suppose, not getting asked back for All-Stars, but obviously talking about how the tribes are chosen by Jan and Jake at the start. When that got announced and you're there and Jake chooses you for his tribe, is that something that you're going, yes, I'm on the guy's tribe, or did you really want to work out there with Jan?
At first I was really excited to be on the young, quote-unquote, young people's tribe, which is what Jake did. He basically picked all the strongest players, physically strongest players, picked all the young players. But once I actually got into the boat and met the players, I had kind of wished that I'd been on the other team, which was a much more harmonious, more mature team. And that was our tribe's downfall, was that we were energetic, inexperienced, and I think a lot of the players were quite immature. So no, I didn't actually, when I was picked for Jake's team, I was very excited because I thought, oh, here are all the young, cute, strong players, but mentally, it probably would have been better to go on the other team.
Yeah, well, I think it's, we saw, obviously, Sukjai start off so well, and then things obviously went downhill, and you're mentioning the tribe dynamic as being a downfall. We spoke to Jed not too long ago, actually, and he was mentioning the night he went home that pretty much the challenge was thrown. Do you think that plays a part into it as well, that you kind of get ahead of yourselves and think, let's throw a challenge to get rid of a person?
That was a real big error in throwing Jed out. On a sort of looking back at it, it might have been a mistake, but at the same time, at that time, Ken and I had formed, this is one of the things you didn't see, Ken and I had formed a secret alliance on the first day that we were there because Jed had planned on voting me off, and he'd been pretty vocal about, getting out the quote-unquote weakest link, which was me. So Ken and I had formed an alliance, and getting Jed out wasn't a mistake. In the long run, it might have been a mistake, but at that time it seemed like the right thing to do because he was gunning for me, and I just wanted him out. I just wanted him out of the show. So we definitely did throw that challenge. It's not a secret that puzzle could have been solved, but I did. That definitely was thrown on purpose.
Yeah, when we spoke to Jed, he obviously mentioned a little bit about that, because I always find in talking, I think, Sheehan, to contestants who have been part of tribes that have thrown challenges, I don't know if it's ever really turned out well for people on that tribe in the overall aspect of the game.
Yeah. It's looking back, it probably wasn't the best choice. But the thing about throwing challenges is that there are many ways to throw a challenge, right? There's the obvious way, which is what we did with Jed. There's also the subtle way, which is to let someone hang on their own rope. I don't know if that's the right saying, but basically, some people volunteer to be lead or heads of certain challenges, and then they fail, and then you have to vote them off because of that. So there's two ways to do it. We did it the obvious way. We just basically, other people could have solved that puzzle, but I certainly didn't volunteer to help solve that puzzle. And that was a puzzle that I actually did know how to do.
Yes, after all these years, it's good to get things confirmed, Shian. But you're obviously saying in forming the alliance with Ken, why do you think, was this deliberately secret, or was this something that just wasn't aired on TV and that's kind of why it was secret?
No, it just wasn't filmed.
Ah,
it wasn't
right.
filmed. It happened to be a moment. Usually we were caught, in Survivor, I'm not sure if other contestants have talked about this already, but essentially if you are alone, cameras don't follow you. If there are two of you, the cameras often follow you.
Mm-hmm.
They're supposed to follow you. But for whatever reason, Ken and I were caught by a bonfire in the middle of the night by ourselves, and it just did not get captured.
Wow.
And yeah.
There you go. What are some, you mentioned before that there were some other unseen moments then. What are some of, I suppose, the major moments, Shian, that perhaps us as viewers didn't get to see?
Oh, gosh.
I'm putting you on the spot, aren't I?
Yeah, I mean, you are putting me on the spot. Well, there are a lot of things that post the show, there are a lot of things that after the show ended, when we were back in our right minds, when we look back upon the show, you're like, oh, well, that happened, and I think that that the producers did that. For example, well, actually, this is not really pertaining to your question, to be honest with you, but I'll tell you a show secret that I think, looking back upon it, I'm like, oh, gosh, why didn't we figure this out? So the thing about Thailand, one of the reasons why it was kind of boring is that we were all very lethargic. We didn't have any food. We didn't know how to find water. We were just kind of pathetic out there, starving and lethargic because of it. So what happened would be that in the morning of these very lethargic mornings, crawling out of bed with no energy, we'd see that there were squid on the beach, along the beach, hanging out on the beach, live squid, fresh live. So we'd go out and catch this fresh live squid and we'd grill it. It'd be so delicious. It'd be our meal of the day. And at the time, we were all like, wow, the storm, the sea gods brought this delicious, bounty to us. But looking back at it as a sane person who's eaten and had water and sleep and all this stuff, I'm like, oh, of course, the producers put it there because they wanted us to have some energy for the challenges and for the interviews. Otherwise, we'd just be, like little zombies crawling around on the beach. So that's probably one of the things that you didn't get to see on the show. There were also, of course, lots of little interactions between people that you don't always get to see on the show. But to be honest, I'd have to watch the show again to remember what they are.
That's it on the to-do list, Shian. We'll work out a time when, we'll force you to watch it, and then we'll go, so, what happened in episode 3 at the 27-minute mark?
Yeah, exactly.
Just give you some homework.
Exactly.
But I think also a lot of people really, in those earlier episodes, the conflict with Rob. Now, we spoke to Rob a couple of months ago now, and, Rob had a bit to say. Was there more to it than we saw, or did it really come down to editing and you guys didn't hate each other as much as it appeared?
Rob was just really young at the time that we did the show, and he, first day, got in my face, as you saw, I think in episode 1 or something, right? He got in my grill the very, very first day that I was there. And so after that, we just didn't get along at all. And I've seen him since the show, and he seems to have matured, and we totally got along the last time I saw him, which was at a reunion. I mean, it's not like we don't hate each other, but during the show, there was definitely a lot of animosity. I just thought he was very immature at that time, and I didn't care for him during the show. Very whiny. But that's what happens when you play this game. I mean, if you don't eat and you don't sleep and you're not with your family, you're not with your friends, you get very grouchy very soon, very quickly. And he just grated on my nerves.
Yeah. I know a lot of people brought that up for us in these listener questions, which we'll get to soon. But I think it was Rob's interview actually is in our top downloaded interviews of all time, Shian, because he was very popular in what he said with that. But I think some of those incidences in Thailand that we saw, I mean, you versus Rob, on the other tribe, Gandia versus Ted, I mean, there's all these conflicts, so many different conflicts. I think that, to me, really draws me to Thailand as a good season, going back to what we were talking about before.
Yeah, there were definitely some conflicts during the show, for sure. And it's so funny because Rob and my conflict, what's funny about that is that looking back at the show itself, I think my conflict with Penny was personally deeper than it was my conflict with Rob, because I always thought that I could outwit Rob. So to speak. Sorry, Rob, wherever you are. Nice guy, but I just, during the show, I was always like, guy, like, there's no way he's going to survive an extra episode, past me. Whereas with Penny, it was definitely more, of an undertone of like, I didn't care for her more than I didn't care for Rob during the show. Does that make sense? And that didn't get played. I don't think that got played out as much either, because it was more subtle. It was more girl-on-girl disagreement versus, Rob and I, which was just more explosive.
Yeah, well, we actually, one of the listener questions we got from Mel Acabras of New York mentions Penny, and she basically asks that Penny is on record saying she completely owned you in Thailand and should have been on All Stars, not you. Are you on any terms with her at all?
Wow. Again, no, I have not seen Penny in years, and I saw her, I saw her at the reunion, and we were totally nice and civil to each other, and she's, I think she's a very nice person in real life, if you will, and I'm sure, like, if we had another chance to meet outside of Survivor, we'd be cordial and friendly. But in the show itself, did she own me? I don't think she owned me, but she definitely played the game very well. She was very subtle. She had a lot of Southern charm, which I call BS on, because I'm a New Yorker, and I didn't care for that I didn't care for it because I felt it was so fake and phony the whole time. And, the one thing you can never say about me is that I'm fake or phony, I can't control myself, and that's probably my biggest downfall in playing Survivor, is that I cannot keep my mouth shut or, stop reacting to what I see as the reality of how the game is being played. So I don't think Penny should have been on All Stars. She was kind of boring to watch. She was kind of boring to watch. I mean, no offense, Penny.
No, I get that. Absolutely, Sheehan. And, I think that with all the questions we got about people returning from your season to All Stars, I think that, Penny wouldn't be in my top 5 easily.
No. If you want someone to come back to All Stars, you want someone who is going to is going to shake it up.
Yes.
And Penny was definitely not that person.
Yes, no, absolutely. But I suppose, Sheehan, the one thing that you get asked about in every single interview about Thailand, I'm going to bring it up, the whole merge situation, believing it's a merge, it's not a merge. The question I have to ask about that, though, is if that really was the merge and your efforts with the Chuigon tribe might have worked, how then do you think the game plays out differently? Do you make it a lot far, and do you feel as though there might have been a different winner?
If we'd actually merged when there were more players on our team, if we'd actually merged when I thought the merge was, I think there would have been possibly a different outcome. We were the smaller tribe at that point. I believe that's true. I don't know, actually.
I'm looking at the maths right now. It was even.
It was even. Okay, so see, this is how much I remember about the
I've got it in front of me, just in case somebody asks me that question. It's fine.
Okay, good. So basically, I think that if we'd actually merged at that time, it would have gone a little bit differently. There could have been a different winner. Even at that point, didn't think that I was going to be the winner of Survivor at that point when we merged, but I thought that I could get a lot further in the show, to be honest with you, at that point.
Yeah, well, as I said, I suppose that's something that, not just in interviews, Sheehan, that fans who might recognise you probably, do they bring that up still with you 8 years, 10 years on?
About the merge?
About believing it's a merge.
Oh yeah, they do. They laugh at me, and it's funny, and I laugh at myself. But the thing again is that I didn't watch the show, so I wasn't a student of the show. I didn't really, and also, my brain really wasn't working all that well at that time because, like I said, no sleep. I lost like 15, 20 pounds or something, and I wasn't a big girl to begin with. So it wasn't my best intellectually, but but you know what's funny is that when I watch a show, I think it's funny when the merge thing happens. I mean, I laugh at myself and I think, God, what an idiot. But when people ask me about it, they sometimes they're very serious. They're like, well, how do you feel? They don't want to hurt my feelings, but I think it's very funny thing. And I actually also enjoyed watching me scramble to try to win the challenge. And frankly, I think my team some people on the team might not have been working as hard because they wanted me off. So, like I said, another way possibly that the challenge could be thrown by others.
Yeah, well, I hope in asking you that question, Sheehan, that I did hurt your feelings then to just be a bit different.
No, you didn't hurt my feelings.
Damn, I tried.
I know. I know.
Who would have you voted for if you were on the jury between Brian and Clay?
Oh, Brian, for sure.
Easily?
100%. Yeah. I mean, Brian's a really subtle player, Clay was very obvious. Clay rode on his, tail feathers, so to speak, and Brian he was very masterful, so to speak. I mean, everybody thought they were in an alliance with him. And that's the thing. So one of the things you didn't see on the show is that Jan and, Clay talking to me separately about how they were in an alliance with Brian, which I thought was very funny at the time, not being in their tribe and watching it from, the other side, seeing that everybody, and Ted too. Oh, yes. Ted thought he was in an alliance with Brian. There were 3 players who all thought they were in an alliance with Brian, each of them telling me secretly that they had this thing going and that I should join, whatever. And, of course, none of them were in particular favor of Brian. He was playing all of them, which was great for the show.
Yes, indeed. And, I mean, it's little things like that, Sheehan, why I'm such a big fan of Brian. And I know a lot of people are too, which is, I think, why so many people want to hear from the mysterious Brian Heidick.
Oh, he's mysterious, all right. Imagine all of our shock when we discovered his film business on the
Something
side.
that was never mentioned out there, I'm guessing.
Not while we were out there.
Wow.
No.
Did you go and try and hunt the films down and watch them or at all, or?
No, I didn't.
Damn.
Not for me, Brian. Yeah,
Sorry, Brian, if you hear this, apologies for that. I've never even hunted them down, Sheehan. I don't know if I want to have that image of this great player disturbed by some cheesy 90s porn. That's not on my bucket list. It's not an image I want in my mind either. Thanks a lot for bringing that back. Yes, we'll just scrap that. We'll edit that bit out later. But we're coming to All Stars, Sheehan. Were you surprised at all to be asked back? And when you were asked back, did you accept it straight away, or did you have to think about it for a while?
I was surprised that they called me. At that point, it was only, I think, season 6 or season 7 had been happening, and I just didn't. It was fairly quickly after I'd returned from Thailand. It was only like a year and a half or something, maybe. And so I was surprised, and I didn't expect it at all. So I did not accept right away. Actually, I was at first very hesitant to do it because I was going through a breakup with my boyfriend at the time, and I was very emotional, and I was thinking, oh gosh, last thing I need to do is go back on TV and starve to death. And I called Tanya from the show, from Survivor. I believe she was the second person voted off, or maybe, she's a sweetheart. I called her for her advice. We'd become friends after the show, and she said, Sheehan, are you crazy, girl? Can't do her accent really, but she was like, you have to go back, girl. So I did, and it was definitely worth it. It was really fun to do the second show.
Yeah, because I think you're obviously one of the few people on that season who improved from your previous season. I mean, you finished in 6th after finishing 10th. You're on the jury. You win individual immunity. I mean, you obviously did very well on All Stars. So I suppose, as you just said, it's something that you're very glad that you've done, isn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was a really, really interesting experience and really fun to meet some of the players who I'd admired from other seasons, because after my season was over, I watched a couple of other shows. But my favorite was probably meeting Richard Hatch. He was really fun to meet, actually, in person. So, and it was really fun to vote him off, too. Hi, Richard!
I'm sure he'd love to hear that. That's something he would just go off at.
But I liked Richard, there's a lot of people on the show who I didn't get, I'm a city person. I went to college and graduate school, I know that some people think that I just didn't get along with my tribe. It wasn't just that I didn't get along with my tribe because personality. It was really just worldview and, the way that we were brought up and stuff. So Richard was one of the few people, and Kathy and who were the other people that I really just enjoyed meeting. There's some people on the show that I just really connected with much better than those who, lived their whole life in one place, never traveled, and so it was nice to meet some of the players in the All-Stars as compared to my season on the Thailand, for example.
I'm guessing two of those people that you obviously didn't get overly on with well was Jerry and Colby. We saw a lot of conflict between you guys on the show.
It's so funny because Colby didn't really, to me, seem like kind of a sourpuss the whole show, the whole All-Star season. So it wasn't, I just found him to be, again, sort of a big phony and, always smiling for the cameras. When the cameras were around, he'd, puff up his chest and get all, I am Colby and I will do these challenges. But, when the cameras were on him, he was just sitting around moaning about his nether regions because they were very raw. Swimsuit. I don't know if I can say that on air, but
can.
He just, of course I can. So, what's he gonna do? But he had some severe, chafing or something, and he would just moan about that and something, or I don't know. He was always just kind of moping around when the cameras weren't on. So it wasn't like he was some great, fantastic player. So it wasn't, and he was always saying, he was always hinting at voting me off, and then telling me to my face that he's going to vote me off because I did nothing to the show. And meanwhile, I was like, well, or to the game, sorry. Meanwhile, I'm thinking to myself, everyone just plays this game differently, and my whole strategy the second time around is to just sit back and, let all of you alphas fight it out amongst yourselves. And that's sort of what happened.
Yeah.
He got voted off because he was, such a big target because he had won or had given up his, winnings, which is even more idiotic. So, that was the Colby and my conflict, I guess. He wanted to vote me off because he viewed me as not doing anything, and I viewed him as a big phony. So there you have it with that. And with Jerry, to be honest with you, I don't really actually understand why Jerry dislikes me so much. We weren't necessarily friends during the game, but I didn't particularly have anything against her either. Now, this is my recollection, so I don't know what it is, but I do know that I really upset her at the reunion show. At the reunion show, she said something, and I said something back, and the audience clapped or something, and she got very upset and left.
Yes.
So I think that somehow sealed in her mind that we're mortal enemies. But Jerry, if you're out there, I really have nothing against you. So,
well,
I don't know what that's about.
We'll try and connect because we spoke to Jerry a couple of months ago. So look, I don't think you were really brought up in the interview actually, Shan. We'll change that. We'll get her back on, and I'll make the whole thing about you.
No. Yeah, no. I don't think that she thinks about me either. But I do know that she mentioned at some interview that I was the worst player ever, which I think is hilarious.
Wow.
But
there you go. Well, when we get to our 5 questions soon, Shian, maybe you can get some revenge.
Sure.
Then. I'll give you the floor.
Right.
I'll give you the chance to go back. Obviously, though, we talk about what-if scenarios on the show a lot, Shian, and I think 2 things that could have turned out very differently in All-Stars. Obviously, the whole situation with Amber, when Lex saves Amber on your tribe, and if Amber had have gone that time instead. And also the night you go home, where you very nearly beat Tom to win your second consecutive individual immunity. Do you think those are the 2 points that, I suppose particularly with the Amber move, had Amber gone that night, the season's completely different, isn't it? I mean, the winner's gone that early.
Yeah, and Rob probably would have won. Yeah, that was really a Lex move. Lex really wanted to keep her because Lex and Rob supposedly had the secret handshake, Amber, take care of my baby, he says, or take care of Amber or something. And, Lex believed him. And so we kept her on, and we voted off, I believe, Jerry instead. Again, in retrospect, maybe not the wisest move, but, it seemed like the right one at the time. The thing about Survivor that people don't understand is that even though everyone goes into the show wanting to be strategic, you end up being emotional, because that's what we are. We're human beings. We're not robots. We have emotions, and we end up voting off people who are annoying us rather than thinking about the logic of it, which is probably to vote off the person who isn't part of our tribe, right? So that was the mistake.
Yeah. What were your thoughts then on how that all played out when you guys have merged and Rob is saying to Lex, no, we're not doing this? Are you just sitting back there at that point going, Lex, you really were a dickhead doing that? Or are you just kind of thinking to yourself, oh, I want food, I don't care what's happening, just let me keep going on?
Yeah, no, I just think, how awful, let me just keep going on. I want to get to the end. That's the thing, too, is that I think for me, All-Stars was just a game. It was one of the things that differentiates me from some of the other Survivors is that, to me, Survivor was really a game. It really was just a TV show, a game show within a certain space of time in my life, right? And I didn't get emotional too much about whether or not I got voted off and who I voted off, because everyone was trying to win that $1 million. So the players who cry about their friendships and it's like, yeah, when you play poker with your friends, you don't cry if they take your $100 bill. It is what it is. It happens. And you try as hard as you can, but if it doesn't go your way, you don't take that grudge with you for the rest of your life. You just, unfortunately, unlike poker, you don't get a second chance. Most people don't get a second chance at it again. So
it's a very good way of looking at that. I like that.
Yeah. Well, and here's another little bit of secret. They actually called me to do Heroes versus Villains.
You've answered a question that I got from a couple of people, actually. I like that. What happened with that?
I had literally just given birth to my son.
Right.
I was literally the day after I gave birth to my son. And, I got a call from casting, and they said, yeah, will you come and audition for the third season? Will you come and do this? And I said, I'm not sure. I don't think so. And they actually, funny, because I said, I just gave birth. I don't think I can come. And they said, oh, you'll lose all that baby fat. Thanks, CBS. I can see that you don't really care about my baby. But I said no.
Wow. Do you think you would have been a hero or a villain, Shii?
I did also ask that after the show was over, and they said I would have been a villain, which would have been fun.
Well, the she-devil would have come out literally then, wouldn't she?
Yeah, the she-devil. I know. I'm the she-devil because of my mouth. I can't stop but comment.
Wow. Well, we often, again, as I said, a lot of people asked us to ask you, had you been asked back? Because I think every person we get on this show, everyone wants to know that. But that would have, again, just I'm dreaming up situations here, Shii. Who would have you worked with? Who would have you gone against? There's a whole nother topic for another day there. That would have been a fun season then.
It would have been. But, I think Survivor is one of those experiences, it's almost like a better one.
Yeah.
I don't, the second time when we did the All-Stars, it was fun, but it wasn't new, and we all kind of knew what was happening. It was much more of a show, so to speak, it's less pure.
Yeah.
The first time you do Survivor, you're like, wow, what is happening? I don't know, my mind is blown. Who are these people I've never hung out with before? I don't get them at all. So, in a way, I liked having this memory of Survivor and the uniqueness of it, not tarnished by a second, third, fourth, fifth,
Yeah.
It becomes a career. It's like, no.
Very good point to make there. Boss and Rob makes a career out of it. 4 times. Of course you're going to win it. Come on. Now we'll get to some listener questions in just a second, Shii, but just 2 quick things I want to touch on. You're the second person that we've had on this show who voted for Amber in that final tribal council. Now, I suppose, quickly, what do you say to people who consider Amber as an undeserving winner, which we'll get to in our 5 questions in just a moment?
Well, I think it's easy for people in TV land or who's never played the game to watch her play and say, oh, she doesn't deserve to win because she didn't do anything. She didn't catch any fish. She didn't solve any puzzles. She didn't win any individual immunities, etc. But the thing about Survivor is that it's about getting to the end, and the manner in which you get to the end doesn't always have to be showy, right? Ryan wasn't all that showy, and Amber, she was great. She flew right under the radar the whole time. She worked her way into, staying within our tribe when she merged with us or she came onto our team, and she was very charming, and she got all the way because of her alliance with Rob, which of course later turned out into a romance. But why shouldn't that strategy be just as good as someone who's super showy, who wins every single challenge and plays it up for the camera, hams it up for the camera? I think it's just as good of a strategy as any. And I thought she played it better than Rob because she used him to get to the end.
Yeah, it's a good way of putting it. I like that because when we get to that question, as I said, she gets answered a lot, and we haven't obviously spoken to Amber. It's probably never going to happen, but we'll hold out hope. But we would love to, we like to get perspective of that, to kind of defend Amber, so to speak.
Yeah, no, I respected the way that she played. I mean, but then again, I think that Survivor is as much of a mental game as it is a physical game. And I think she played a very good mental game because she just was very subtle about the whole thing, and she flew under the radar. And
it worked.
I liked it.
She won $1 million.
It worked.
Got a husband, couple of kids, went in the Amazing Race. The rest is history. We'll get into these the listener ones, but also, Sheehan, just quickly mentioned, obviously, you've had a couple of children since your time on the show. What are you up to now? Update our listeners on the life of Sheehan at the moment.
Sure. I'm a senior vice president at Corcoran, which is a big real estate company in New York City, and I got married. I bought a house with my Survivor monies. So, it's a lot has happened in the 8-10 years since whenever it was since I did the show. And I'm very happy that I did the show. It definitely brought a lot of new ventures into my life. And New York is perfect for a former survivor because, all those skills translate right into everyday living here in New York.
Brilliant. I'd like to hear that. Well, we'll get into these listener questions and the 5 ones quickly because I know you've got to go off to work today, Sheehan, actually. So I'll get through these ones quickly for you. Now, listener question, first one, Noah Groves wants to know, do you know that if other than Brian, any other people from Thailand were asked back for All-Stars at all?
I don't believe anybody else was asked back for All-Stars besides maybe Brian.
Right.
I know that certain players were very angry at the choice that was made, which is namely me.
Which players? Come on, Sheehan, which players?
No, I mean, I don't think anybody else... Oh, which player? Well, he's short and has glasses. And it's funny because I just heard these things through rumors, of course, rumors of people being angry and saying things like, she doesn't deserve to be on the show, I do. Well, unfortunately, the producers didn't think
exactly. And you went on there, you got there, you did well and made it further. Thanks, Noah. Obviously, he's one of our Ozlets, Noah, so good for that. Pete Brown of Ilford Crombie wants to know that when Amber gave you the car in the reunion, she said it was because you were the deciding vote. Were you truly undecided beforehand, or did you all already know you were going to vote for Amber?
I pretty much knew what I was going to vote for Amber, but I wanted to hear the answers to my questions. So I was the swing vote. I was the swing vote.
Brilliant. Did you keep the car?
So I gave it to my parents because I live in New York City and you can't really drive here.
Ah, that's nice. We're found with a few of the people who've won cars on the show that not many people keep them, but that works out well, giving it to your parents. It's a nice gesture, gift to a gift. I like that. Our final listener one, Amy Murphy in Melbourne, wants to know. She is aware that almost all female Asian contestants who have played since season 8 have played games and achieved results which closely mirror your game in All Stars. Why do you think this is? And we also have another question similar. Why do you think Asian women on the show never seem to be very popular?
I haven't watched the show since Survivor All Stars. I hate to say it. It's sort of like you have PSD. What is it? Post-traumatic stress disorder. So you don't really want to go back. I'm going to be making a stereotype here because the question is so broad about Asian women in general. But I'm going to say that if they're like me, they are very opinionated, they're smart and intelligent. I think this is a grain of salt. And they probably, the brassiness probably doesn't sit well with others. I will just speak for myself. One of the reasons why I would say that I'm not quote-unquote popular is that I have a lot of opinions, and they're not always the ones that are polite or the ones that follow convention. I don't find, I'm very critical and can see sort of underneath the smile of how other players are playing. So I see them for what they are, and that's not always very popular if you voice that opinion, especially to that person. So if they're anything like me, that's probably what happened. They probably try to fly under the radar, and at the end of the day, they couldn't. So that's how come they don't do well.
That's fine. I like that because, it's a question. We spoke to, from the most recent season, Christina, who was also an Asian American, and we kind of brought up the topic of that. And, without going into a lot of details, we mentioned the all-time great female Asian contestants. We mentioned yourself. We mentioned, obviously, some of the other ones throughout it. But there's another interesting debate we can have another time, Shii, about that.
All right.
Yes.
I look forward to that.
We put that on the list. Now, I'll get to these 5 questions quickly. As I said, to wrap it up now, these are all Survivor-based, opinion-based questions, Shii. Base it off what you know and what you see. What are 3 things you learnt about Jeff Probst during both your seasons of Survivor?
I think I do think that Jeff, after season 5, started to get really tired and annoyed with some of the survivors. So I think that he wishes he was doing something else, and I think he is trying to do something else. I think he's got a new talk show or something.
He does. It's coming very soon.
Yeah, but also after season 5, he did become a producer, so maybe that changed his trajectory, changed the show. I do remember in season 5 that he literally said to me off camera, "I can't believe these idiots." Talking about my tribesmate in that one challenge that was very, very physical. I don't know how I can't remember what it was called, but it was one where we got to push each other off the bridge, sort of.
Yep.
And they got really, really physical and almost got physical with him, so he didn't like that.
Wow.
What else? Yeah. What else do I know about Jeff? I don't really know very much about Jeff, except for he remembers all the survivors. He has a very good memory.
Ah, there you
go. And
go.
he's very good at he's extremely good at the tribal councils in helping you articulate whatever it is that you want to say.
Brilliant.
He'll re-ask the questions, and he's quite good at drawing it out of.
We like to hear that. So many different things, obviously, I think, changed from Thailand onwards, which, again, is a season I think needs to get more respect, that Shii. Question number 2, what has been your favourite season of Survivor and your least favourite season?
That assumes that I watch Survivor other than my own season.
Well, you can vote for both yours, or just the ones you've seen.
I guess my favorite season would have to be Survivor All-Stars, and then because I literally only ever watched 2 seasons from top to bottom, which is my own 2 seasons. So my least favorite season, well, I don't have one because I like most of the seasons that I was on. Is that a terrible answer?
No, it's not the worst one we've had. Let's just put it that way. I'll put that nicely. Right. What were we saying about trying to offend you or hurt your feelings, Shii? Question number 3. From the seasons you have seen, from the people you have known, I realise you're a married woman, Shii, but who is the hottest Survivor contestant in the history, male or female?
Wow, that's like an impossible. That's like, how do you pick, which of your children to adore? I mean, there's so many good-looking people on the show. I think Ken from our show is very, very handsome. Is very, very handsome. And I also really liked Cal, I believe that's his name. I didn't watch his season, but the Asian winner from season 9?
Yul won season...
Yul,
yes.
Yul, that's his name, Yul.
Yes.
Very handsome. Yul and Ken would probably be my choices for the hottest male survivors. Again, because I don't really watch the show, unfortunately. I don't really have that much knowledge of who amongst the women are the hottest, but Tanya from my my season from Thailand was beautiful, and so was Amber.
Yes.
Amber is such a pretty girl without makeup on. I mean, most of us without makeup, we look like a ghoul. On the show, we look like we have, eyebrow hair is growing out. It's just crazy. And Amber and Tanya, they both look like they just woke up from a nap, and they look like they're backlit little angels, when they wake up from not showering for 30 days.
Wow,
so,
I like that answer.
Those ladies are really pretty. Yeah.
You saved your answer from question number 2 and improved it from question number 3, Shian. I like that. Good job. Nice save. Question number 4. 2-part question. Again, from what you have seen, who to you is the most deserving person who has never won? You can answer yourself. And what we were saying before about undeserving winners, who to you is the most undeserving winner, or perhaps just your least favourite winner?
Gosh, it's so hard for me to answer that because can you give me a different question because I don't watch the show?
Well, answer yourself for the first part. Go on.
Well, no, I mean, I don't, I guess maybe in All-Stars I could have had a shot at winning. I don't know, but who has never won? That is so deserving. You know what? Jake.
Yes.
Jake from my season.
Yes.
He was great. He should have won. He could have won.
I like that answer. We've had Jake on, and I'll accept that. And I'll let you plead the 5th then for the part 2 of that question.
Part 2, you let me skip, right? Because I don't know who doesn't deserve to win. Oh, you know who does not deserve to win and who's never won and who might be one of my least favorite people outside the game is Johnny Fairplay. I don't know if he has a chronic mental illness that makes him so nasty, but Johnny Fairplay pretty much lives up to his own reputation. He is very unpleasant.
Yes. We're getting
in real life.
We're getting a lot of Johnny Fairplay hate lately. We like it. I know both his fans will be disappointed, but look, we'll pass.
I think well, you know what's funny, because a lot of people watch the show and they say things like, you were unfairly portrayed, or was this, not realistic? Is this, do you feel like this was not you? Blah, blah, blah. I have to remind them that it really was me, and that certain people on the show would like to say that that's not the way that they are in real life, but actually that is exactly the way that they are in real life. And Johnny Fairplay is one of those people. He's very obnoxious and works on that in real life.
I can definitely imagine. Hello, Johnny, should you be listening to this. Our final question, Shian, in the history of Survivor, again, from what you have seen, who to you is the greatest ever contestant and why?
Oh, gosh, the greatest ever contestant has got to be Richard Hatch, because he set the standard for the game. Right? He created the game. He set the bar so high, that everybody has tried to emulate the way that he plays, essentially.
Yes, indeed.
So, got to be Richard Hatch, number 1.
Exactly, with the bullet.
Numero uno.
Yes, well, he gets answered a lot, Richard, we'll say that. And look, we'll pass on some messages of love today, Shian, because it has been an absolute pleasure having a chat with you today and catching up with things to do with Survivor. Good luck with your career, the children, the marriage, everything along those lines. And look, who knows, we might see you again on Survivor one day when they bring back Heroes vs. Villains 2.
Yes, I'll have to work on my mustache that I can grow for the villains parts.